Seriously, Disney is on a roll right now. I mean, all their live action remakes, Cinderella, Jungle Book, now they're coming out with Beauty and the Beast. My god. So, for those of you not in the know, this is Disney's remake live action version of their classic animated Beauty and the Beast from 1991. For those of you who don't know, the very first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture. So there's a lot riding on this film. So no pressure Disney, but I am pleased to say that they killed it with this movie. Emma Watson plays Belle in this film and she does a really good job. She has a really good singing voice as well. I know a lot of people say that she's too auto-tuned, but I personally didn't detect on anything other than that. So she did a really good job and she actually provided a lot more depth to the character of Belle. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the animated version of Belle, but they go into a bit more detail about her backstory with this one, about what happened to her mother, and it's actually quite upsetting. Luke Evans plays Gaston in the film. Gaston is once again the absolute douchebag you remember him being. Luke Evans plays him wonderfully. It almost feels like he was born to play Gaston at this point, but what I really like about Luke Evans' portrayal is that they definitely up the intimidation factor in this scene. I mean, the scene, if you've seen the animated, I'm going to assume you have, you know that there's a scene where Gaston rallies the people in the village to take on the beast at the castle. The scene does happen in this one, but it is a lot more creepy in this version. I was legitimately afraid for everyone living in the castle in this scene. And of course, we got Gaston's buddy LeFou, played by Josh Gad, which is really funny because Disney's been making history with LeFou in this version because he's their first openly gay character. But honestly, and I mean absolutely no offense to the LGBT community here, I don't think there was any need to make him gay, because there's really only like 2 moments where his gayness kind of opens up, and honestly, you could have just made him the exact same and it wouldn't have made any difference. I mean, there is another gay character in the film, but I'm not going to spoil that for you. All the utensils are just as good as you remember them. Lumiere, Cogsworth, Mrs. Potts. Actually, Cogsworth, played by Ian McKellen of all people in this version, gets a lot more to do in this film, which I really like. Lumiere has a lot more focus on his relationship with the Feather Duster, who I can't actually remember her name. Mrs. Potts actually kind of gets pushed in the background a little bit. She's almost like a parental figure in this film, but I don't mind that. It actually kind of suits the character. But once again, the utensils are all really good. The cinematography on this film alone is absolutely astounding. The interior of the castle is just beautiful. It really looks like a fairy tale come to life, and I'm being deadly serious on there. Though I will say the CGI on the Beast isn't always the best. There are some scenes where I'm like, okay, that looks really convincing, and there are other scenes where I'm like, she's clearly talking to just a CG goat. But it's not like to the point of the cave troll from the first Lord of the Rings or the troll from the first Harry Potter film. It never gets that bad, but there are a few times where I noticed the CG a bit. But there were also other scenes where I was like, okay, he's really there. Now we come to what you would expect to talk about with Beauty and the Beast, the musical numbers. And yes, this is a musical, because they're remaking the first animated one, so yeah, it's going to be a musical. They have all the songs from the original, and a few new songs, actually. While I do like the new songs, I feel one of them is kind of misplaced. Like, in the animated one, there's this scene where Belle's riding away, the beast has let her go, and he just lets out this pain-ridden roar. And that's really effective. Here, he sings this new song. And while I do like the new song, I feel like either have the roar before the song, or after the song, or put the song somewhere else. Because the roar is just more effective. I do like the song, but I would have just preferred the roar or both. Just either of those two. And of course, you have to talk about Be Our Guest with Beauty and the Beast. Be Our Guest is once again as awesome as you remember it. It's on a much smaller scale than the cartoon, but I get it. The original was a cartoon. You could get away with much more. So I understand the restrictions, but it was still awesome. Actually, my favourite was probably the first one, Belle, when she's strolling through the village. I just really like that one. In short, Beauty and the Beast was a really good film and a really good interpretation of the story. It's not as good as the animated one, but again, the original was nominated for Best Picture. It's going to be tough to beat that. But it's still a really good version of the story and a really well put together film, and you should see it. That's all for now, guys. See you later.